يعني ستشهد الساحة السياسية السودانية حراك كبير وفاعل ومنتج بإذن الله يعني.
ريهام السهلي، قناة اكسترا نيوز. يعني استمعنا إلى مخرجات وما نتج عنه هذه ورشة العمل، ولكن نريد أن نعرف أيضا وجهة نظر الداخل السوداني في الدور الذي من المفترض أن تؤديه دول الجوار والمجتمعين الإقليمي والدولي لدعم استقرار السودان. شكرا.
أستاذ عسكوري.
طيب، السلام عليكم جميعا. أنا علي عسكوري، عضو الكتلة الديمقراطية. أعتقد إنه ده سؤال جيد، لكن قبل ما أرد عليه داير أشكر الإخوة في مصر. ما داير نكتر الشكر والثناء يعني، لأنه ما جيد، لكن افتكر الناس سبقوني كل الإخوة والأخوات في الشكر لمصر ولشعبها على هذه الاستضافة الكبيرة، ونحن ممتنين لهم يعني. الحقيقة قصة القضية المساعدات الدولية للسودان سبقني الإخوة وتحدثوا عنها في الكلمات في الجلسة الأولى. حقيقة نحن في بلدنا محتاجين لمساعدات، محتاجين لتسهيلات. وجاءت بعثة اليونيتامس لكن انحرفت عن مجراها، هي دور تسهيلي بالإضافة للأدوار الأخرى، ولكنها انحرفت وأصبحت منحازة لجزء من القوى السياسية مقابل القوى الأخرى، وده أفقد حياديتها وأفقد مصداقيتها. ولذلك الأمم المتحدة هسه في وجود القيادة الحالية ليونيتامس دورها بقى ضعيف جدا وفقدت صيغة القوى السياسية. ده بالنسبة للأمم المتحدة كمنظمة أممية. بالنسبة لدول الجوار طبعا
As for neighboring countries, we welcome our brotherly nations, especially countries like Egypt and South Sudan and our neighboring brothers, with their assistance, as they are more aware of the situation in Sudan over the years, even before other international organizations, even before any other international organizations started assisting. We obviously see and believe that neighboring countries have a very important role in assisting us in Sudan, and we can see the importance of this open dialogue between the four main factions in Sudan. We as Sudanese people welcome all assistance and cooperation with all peoples and other countries. We are open-minded population, but we also have our own agendas for our country. But this does not stand in the way of cooperation with other nations, especially during this critical time in our history. But we hope that they keep in mind the very important issue of our rights. Of course, one of the most important topics that has been on the minds of all people in Sudan is the situation in the country, and this meeting has given us a great opportunity to communicate together as Sudanese brothers. And I now give the talk to my colleague. Good day. So as not to lessen the effects of this very important meeting, I will ask Engineer Mirghani Al-Khidr to come and former Minister of Transport. He will read some of the outcomes of our meeting today. We have discussed many issues. The most important of them are issues related to stability in Sudan. This is what's important. This is more important than any other agreement. We need to achieve stability in our country in order to achieve stability and a peaceful coexistence, a peaceful political coexistence. The second issue is that we have not cancelled any of the factions or groups. We have come up with plans as a sort of solution to the situation in Sudan. A peaceful coexistence, which is the most important thing for us now in Sudan. The second issue is the Juba Agreement. That is the 2020 Juba Agreement. We have not cancelled it. We have used it as a backdrop for our agreements. We have used these as a backdrop for all the workshops and all our discussions, as well as the agreements that we have used in our workshop. There are many other meetings that we have used. We have not ignored any of these important issues or meetings or gatherings. And now I will give the time to our son to tell us the agreements reached. Thank you, sir. In the name of the Almighty. Good evening. Greetings and appreciation to the Arab Republic of Egypt. And thank you very much for your hospitality and fraternity. And greetings to all my Sudanese brothers and attendees, and to all the members of the media. In the beginning, the issue of the situation in Sudan is ongoing since 1958, since our independence. Of course, it's a complicated case and a complicated issue, especially in this area. Of course, it's a very large area with many neighboring countries. We've tried over the last period to explain the complexity of the situation and how we need to deal with this region and the issues that have been in this region over the years, ranging from education, health, etc., until the revolution in December, where all the peoples called for freedom and justice. And over the last 4 years, we have tried over and over to explain the situation.
بصراعات إثنية وشرخ مجتمعي وغيره من التفاصيل وهذا حال طقس الانتقال في البلاد.
We have seen and tried to explain
في اختراق في العملية دي.
the need
فأنا بفتكر باختصار شديد إن الظاهرة حققت لشرق السودان ما لم تحققه كل نضالات الحركة.
to discuss the situation on the ground. And I see in today's workshop in Cairo that we have reached great strides in our workshop today. They understood the dialogue and the Sudanese situation, and this dialogue workshop was very important because it specifically focused on Sudanese prominent issues. They've also discussed many issues related to the different factions. All the different political factions have been included. No one has been left out. In light of this, we've seen
عملنا نداء اسمه نداء شرق السودان بيتلخص تلخيص بسيط بيتكلم
our talks coming to a conclusion, the first of which is the need for the unity in Sudan. Number two, a peaceful coexistence in Sudan. These main pillars of our discussion have allowed us to make progress in our dialogue and discussion.
بمعاونة كل الإخوة السودانيين وأبرز الشخصيات والمهتمين بقضية شرق السودان إنه نمشي للمنبر التفاوضي عبر مخرجات ومرتكزات الورشة. مرتكزات الورشة قلنا
We've seen the importance of our dialogue, the future of Juba, as well as the Sinkat and Asmara agreements, all the international community's agreements, the Khartoum workshop, amongst others, have all been used to come up with the discussions in today's workshop. If there is a clear question, I'm willing to take it. Thank you very much.
محمد سلامة مراسل قناة الحياة. هل يمكن تقديم فكرة عامة عن برنامج ورشة العمل واللجان المنبثقة عنها وأيضا إلى أي
Can you please give us a clear idea on the dialogue workshop and some of the results, whether on the political front or the social front?
أستاذ مني.
Mr. Mini, yes, thank you. I will answer you straightforwardly. Sudan, as we discussed today, and a part of the current crisis is the fact that we are here in Cairo instead of in Khartoum. This is because of the different political factions, all with their own thought and school of thought. This is why we decided to have the Sudan dialogue workshop in Cairo. We're looking into all the possibilities, different civil society organizations and political groups, for this inter-Sudanese dialogue, which has been brokered by Egypt. We obviously know that this will not be agreed upon by every single Sudanese person. However,
أو الذين هم من في التيار الآخر كذلك سيعجزوا تماما بأن يدعوا بأنهم يعني كل الشعب السوداني ملتف حوله فلذلك نحن دعوتنا بأن يتوحد السودان أولا
we are calling for the unity of Sudan in a civilian dialogue and the need for a civilian government.
حاكم إقليم دارفور سؤال هناك.
Another question?
تمام. تفضل أستاذ.
Go ahead.
هاني النحاس قناة صدى البلد المصرية. طبعا المبادرة المصرية
Of course,
حقيقة استراتيجية بالإضافة لحقائق أخرى عاطفية.
How after this dialogue can Sudan come out as a unified nation with a true sense of citizenship for all its people.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. طلع علي مسار خطة الحراك الوطني. أنا أعتقد إنه كل اللي بنعمل فيه ده عشان نجهز.
I think the reason that we're all here today is because we all seek democracy in our country. And of course, to reach this goal, we have to work hard towards it. The most important thing that we have come out of today's workshop is a national project, national program that can assist us to reach elections in our country and reach a sense of democracy, making way for a civilian government. After the elections, we will have a civilian government, which is indeed a true reflection of a democratic country. We are preparing for this in a transitional period and in the following period. After this transitional period, we will need the civilian government to take the major decisions for the well-being of the country, most important of which to reach stability in our country. Thank you very much.
دكتور ذهب لو عندك إضافة باختصار. أوكي. طيب سؤال. تفضل أستاذ.
Another question?
شكرا جزيلا. أحمد جمعة من صحيفة اليوم السابع المصري. وجهت اتهامات إلى القاهرة بتدخل غير محمود في الشأن السوداني بسبب استضافتها لهذه الورشة.
Cairo has come under attack for interference in Sudan with this inter-Sudanese dialogue workshop just because it is a host. Is this your opinion? Thank you very much. Firstly, we thank the Egyptian government and the Egyptian people. What they have done has nothing to do with interference. On the contrary, the Egyptian government has provided us with an invitation to come to Cairo for the inter-Sudanese dialogue workshop with no interference from the Egyptian government whatsoever. We see this invitation by Egypt as a brotherly invitation from one brother to another. And this comes within the framework of the Egyptian leadership's concern with its brotherly nation, as Sudan is in need for security and stability for the well-being of both Sudan and Egypt. As Egypt sees Sudan as an extension of itself, hence the need for security and stability for both the countries. And this has nothing to do with interference. Thank you. My question is, did this workshop discuss a possible way to choose a prime minister? Have any names been suggested or agreed upon? Thank you very much. No, the workshop has not agreed upon any names. This is not the time for this. All we have done is agreed on a transitional group made out of 100 people that will be suggesting names for the political figures in the upcoming phase. 60% of this committee will be distributed amongst the different factions in Sudan. The people that are signing this agreement are about 60% of this committee. Then they will agree on how they will choose a prime minister, whether by a vote or by naming someone agreed upon.
إضافة من دكتورة تيان، تفضل. شكرا جزيلا بالإضافة لما ذكره الأخ الباشمهندس.
To add to my colleagues' comments, the workshop has put forward a group of rules to choose a prime minister with. These rules, if they are not followed, they have been put in place to choose a prime minister futuristically in the coming period.
شكرا جزيلا. سمان عوض الله، الحاكم نيوز. حقيقة هذه الورشة هي قابت رفضا للاتفاق الإطاري الذي وقع في ديسمبر من العام الماضي.
This workshop has
تشهد غدا تحرك دولي
seen
لإنغاذ والدفع بالاتفاق الإطاري
an international movement to reach some sort of agreement. My question is, how do you see today's meeting and today's workshop agreeing with the international community's push for an agreement in Sudan? Good evening.
ما يتم في الداخل حقيقة ما يسمى بالاتفاق الإطاري لم يجد إجماع من القوى السياسية السودانية.
On today's workshop, there was no consensus reached amongst all the Sudanese political parties, and
على القوة المتمثلة
And this is
فيما يسمى
expected.
بالمجلس المركزي الممارسة الإقصاء من بداية ما يسمى بال يعني انتهاء شرعية ثورية واستلام السلطة المدنية.
It's very important to make way for this new thought and a need
تقليل من
to
ما تم في القاهرة واللي هو
live up to the expectations of the great efforts today
وطنية سودانية
by a great
من الأخوة المصريين
political factions that have met today, the Sudanese factions,
الشروط اللازمة لأنه نقعد مع بعض
and under the leadership of and the brokership rather of Cairo, who have given us an opportunity to take part in this dialogue and reach a large number of political groups. As today many delegates from these political groups were in attendance, and today we managed to get into a comprehensive Sudanese dialogue as a result of Egypt and Cairo's sponsorship and assistance. And of course, we are brokering this political process in the identification of what needs to be done for our political will.
مزيد من التوضيح القائد مني. طيب شكرا. افتكر بالاضافه لكلام
to add to Mr. Sora's
بالنسبه للعمليه السياسيه
statements.
المبعوثين بكره في الخرطوم.
Tomorrow,
افتكر كيف تكون العلاقه.
how do you expect the workshop between different committees in Cairo and in Khartoum? This is a political dialogue and a political agreement, which is part of the political process, which is very important for Sudan during this current period. So the delegates are obviously in touch, and they are trying to rescue the political process for the country as a whole. Thank you very much.
شكرا.
Thank you.
تفضل استاذ.
محمد علي حسن، جريدة الوطن المصرية. كنت عايز أسأل سؤال إلى أي مدى يمكن للقوى السياسية المشاركة في ورشة
To what extent can the political parties taking part in today's workshop agree to meet with Forces for the Freedom and Change Democratic Bloc?
بسم الله والحمد لله. حقيقة المجلس المركزي للحرية والتغيير
The bloc for freedom and change, or the democratic bloc, are in charge of a great political segment, and they have been invited. As political parties, we, let me give you an example. Here, as our committee, we wanted to sign, but with a few changes, and they disagreed. But this was not acceptable for us. However, as for us, and out of today's workshop, And as a result of this dialogue workshop, we are calling for collaboration, and we are extending our cooperation. If they want to add to it, they may. If they want to remove from it, they can also do that. This is our stance, as we believe that democracy is the aim and the goal. And we call them from here to keep in mind that none of them have been elected as yet by the Sudanese people, so hence we are all equal in this regard.
هذا بتصنيفهم يريدون أن يصنفوا القوى السياسية إلى قوة وثورة وقوة مؤيدة.
There are no need for divisions between the different political groups. We are all one as Sudanese people in our rights as well as our duties. Thank you.
دكتور صندل عندك إضافة؟
شكرا جزيلا. طيب بسم الله الحمد رب العالمين.
Thank you very much.
موضوع لانه يعني الحريه والتغيير او احنا نرفض الجلوس معهم. طبعا
We as a coalition
جدا تاريخيا
and throughout history
قبلناها بعباره عنها هي يعني العمليه مسهله وبدانا في الحوار.
We have started with this dialogue.
حدث في السودان ففوجئنا ان المجلس المركزي انسحب من الحوار.
But unfortunately, we have seen some groups withdrawing. And they called for certain slogans which we refused to accept. Yet we still tried to discuss the importance of dialogue. And we are all working towards peace and dialogue. However, this was met with resistance from different groups, and they had their own parties and meetings.
وظللنا نتحدث عنه هذه الوثائق السريه غير مفيده ولكن قلنا برضه دي مرحله
This was not helpful.
تركتم مساله لا شرعيه ولا حوار ولا تفاوض
And
لذلك نحن
hence they have been
احنا قناعتنا
unincluded.
اخونا فتحي قال نحن مفتوحين واهم شيء في الحوار الشعب.
We are open to all parties. We need the Sudanese people to all unify to reach our political goal of democracy in our country. Thank you very much.
سؤال تفضل.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عماد الدين أحمد السنوسي، صحيفة الطب السوداني الإلكتروني. هل ينتهي دور القاهرة مع انتهاء
Will the role of Cairo end with the end of this inter-Sudanese dialogue workshop?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وآله مع التسليم. أنا في البداية قبل ما أعلق على الكلام عن التدخل مصر والقاهرة في الحوار السوداني.
In the beginning,
ما بين ما تم في الآلية الثلاثية.
I would like to comment on the role that Cairo is playing with the Inter-Sudanese Dialogue Workshop. Today, we were invited here to take part in this workshop, and many political factions came to attend, except for the deliberation. This is a very important issue. We have agreed on another time. We have to concentrate on our dialogue here as Sudanese and members of different political factions. What is happening today in Cairo is a predominantly Sudanese dialogue. All that the Egyptians have done is given us the venue, a place to meet, a safe space to meet, but no interference whatsoever. After a while, there will be an agreement signed between all the factions that have attended today, which will be the main foundation for a start of the agreement of a roadmap to deal with the Sudanese crisis. And this will continue because everybody here has the same aim, which is reaching a democratic nation with free and fair elections. To speak about the martyrs of the December Revolution, I'd like to thank very much the Egyptian government and Egyptian people and everyone who participated in our workshop. What makes this dialogue stand out is the participation of the different factions, political factions, members of the youth, civilians, NGOs. We want to speak about the difference between the two dialogues that have been held in October 2022 in Juba. I don't see any problem really to hold this workshop in Egypt as we've held in Juba before. Secondly, this workshop for the first time, this dialogue for the first time really takes into account the youth and takes into account issues that concern the Sudanese youth. And this is very important, and you all know how important it is to include the youth, especially now that the youth have other issues that could influence them. For example, we all know how youth try to leave different countries, taking part in illegal immigrations, losing their lives in both the Red and the Mediterranean seas. So it's very important to involve our youngsters and our youth and change the way that they think and express themselves, to develop dialogue with them, and a need to build trust between the different political factions and their youth members. Freedom and justice are very important for the youth. And our workshop has discussed many issues related to the participation of Sudanese youngsters and Sudanese youth in political life in the country. And this truly is an achievement for all the Sudanese revolutionaries and youth.
يجب أنه لا توجز عليها السادة المشاركين في هذه الورشة وهذا ديدن البشر الانتقاد اللازم لكل نجاح فأنا شاكر
I'm very, very grateful
للقائمين على هذه الورشة
to Egypt for hosting us,
ومتحدثا عن شعار
and I stand strong
في نشيد العلم الوطني
when I talk about
هذه الأرض لنا فليعش سوداننا علما بين الأمم
when I talk about my country, Sudan.
نحن كشعب سوداني
Us as Sudanese people, we must take responsibility and protect our homeland.
رفضت الخرطوم أو الحرية والتغيير المركزي المتواجد الآن في الخرطوم هذا الإعلان السياسي ما هو مقترح؟
What if today's agreement
البعض يرى أن طالما هو حوار سوداني فلماذا يكون خارج البلاد أو بالتحديدا في القاهرة؟ السؤال الثالث هل تم تحديد سقف ثمني محدد للترتيبات الأمنية ودمج الجيوش؟ شكرا.
Some people have seen that if this was an inter-Sudanese dialogue, it should have been held in Sudan. And another issue is that of security issues. Tell us a bit about some of the security preparations for the upcoming period.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله الأمين شكرا جزيلا أيضا شكرا لإخوتنا في جمهورية مصر العربية.
Thank you to our brothers in Egypt for hosting us.
يمكن السؤال العزيزة ماجدة على الترتيبات الأمنية.
I will answer the question about security preparations. I will start by saying that the Juba Peace Agreement is very important in putting in mind the latest security situation in the country. With regards to the security situation and protocols of the Juba Peace Agreement for Eastern Sudan, in this workshop, we called for the rewriting of this agreement, especially with regards to its implementation. These protocols should be put into effect from day one, especially after their signature. However, they have not been implemented, but we hope that they do get so after the new government is put in place, that all these protocols must be implemented. What if the political party Freedom and Change refuses today's agreements reached by you? Obviously, are not taking part, so they disagree.
الحواجز بتاعت الأعراف منذ تصميم الاتفاق والمشروع بتاع الذي تجمعت عليه الرؤية ومنذ الفكرة الأولى التي تم بها اختطاف القرار
And this is
والإرادة السياسية في السودان وعزل كل القوى السياسية
has been happening since problems started in Sudan.
بوضع المتاريس والعراقيل
And putting into effect
تصل لاتفاقات معها وتصميم المآزق وتفخيخ المسارات
And
بتاعت التلاغي حتى يومنا هذا
till today, we have not seen any of these agreements accepted by any of them.
من السرية يعني نحن ما ممكن نلتقي مع ناس بيصمموا مشروع
We
دستوري يعتدي على مستقر دستوري
needed to mediate negotiations,
من دون ما تكتب حوله إعلام مبادئ
but out in the open, not in secret meetings. We cannot do any of this without a political announcement, which is signed and agreed upon by different political factions, by our people. We have a clear goal. We need to see democratic changes in our country and regain our standing and our political willpower for our country, for our nation. What we are trying to do is take part in dialogue, and we have no problem to continue with our dialogue, to be more encompassing and include all the different parties and concerned parties, but in the light.
شكرا.
Thank you very
مهندس
much.
إبراهيم كلوكا عندك إضافة؟ وين مش مهندس؟ طيب دكتور داهر تفضلوا الاثنين تفضلوا بسرعة.
السلام عليكم تحياتي لكم جميعا.
Greetings to you all. Thank you very much to Egypt and the Egyptian people for their hospitality.
ذلك السؤال الذي يتردد لماذا إذا كان الحوار سوداني والسوداني
I find this question about why Egypt is hosting this dialogue quite irritating, especially as it has been repeated in many international media outlets. To these I say, Egypt is my country's sister. Secondly, we asked you, why did you agree to different dialogues in Juba or Ethiopia or in any other international embassies and allowed such interference by the international community, yet refused to take part in today's dialogue. So very simply, I want to say we have a very unique relationship with Egypt, which can never ever be misinterpreted, as Egypt invited us generously and we accepted the invitation with no interference. Once again, thank you very much and greetings to Egypt and its people. The negotiations that are taking place outside of Sudan is not a new concept, and this is not the first workshop of its kind to take place outside of Sudan. So there is nothing shocking about this dialogue. yet the other factions are the ones that have gone out of the country seeking international interference. Of course, we have a great historical ties between Egypt and Sudan. Egypt is the second home for the Sudanese, and Egypt hosts more than 5 million Sudanese that feel they are at home and never feel that they are not welcome. On the contrary, they always feel that Egypt is their second home. The idea is, after this workshop ends, we will go back to our brothers in Sudan, because this is the issue of a nation where we must all reach consensus. It has become a very important. One final question, please, and then we will go to the signing of the political protocol document.
عمرو موسى قناة CBC المصرية. سؤالي: هل كان من الممكن للقوى السياسية التي وجهت انتقادات إلى القاهرة نتيجة دعوتها لورشة العمل هذه أن تصل إلى ولو نسبة 10% مع المشاركين في ورشة؟
My question is, if the political faction that refused to take part in today's dialogue had met, could they have reached any sort of consensus like what you have reached today?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بالتحية لجمهورية مصر العربية شعبا وحكومة.
Greetings to Egypt, both government and its people. And greetings to everyone that has assisted us and helped us during our stay. I did not want to respond, however, I will speak in general about the participation of the different factions. First and foremost, we obviously do not represent every single Sudanese person. However, secondly, we are not here to undermine any other political parties working in Sudan, but we came here for a dialogue workshop to come up with recommendations agreed upon by the different political parties in attendance today to see how we can reach consensus on very important issues for the different. And this dialogue is very important as it bridges a gap between the different political factions and must extend to the rest of the Sudanese political parties and factions. So we are hoping that the other political factions would attend and take part in such an important dialogue workshop. We believe that today's agreements can be taken up by these different factions and continued upon and further worked with. Thank you very much.
والسلام على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. الحقيقة الشكر
I'd like to thank again Egypt, the Egyptian government, as well as the Egyptian people for their kindness and generosity, and all members of the media for their attendance. I would like to reiterate a specific issue, is that when we came here to Egypt, we came to reach an agreement, we put in mind issues on the minds of all the Sudanese people since 2019, and we decided that we must, as political parties, have some solutions and suggestions to go back to the Sudanese people with back home, because they have been very patient. So we are here for a specific reason, which is the rescuing of our nation and to find a way out of this political crisis in our country. And this is our main aim, to give each and every Sudanese person a good life. We have no qualms with the factions that did not participate, and we are extending our hands to collaborate with them and listen to any of their concerns, whether they attend or not. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. في البدء أشكر جمهورية مصر جمهورية مصر حكومة وشعبا.
I'd like to thank the government of Egypt and its people. We came to participate in this dialogue workshop after being invited, and we came with our dreams and requests of our people, because there is a political crisis in our country, and this is as a result of the fact that not every single faction feels included in the agreements. So today, as a member of the Youth Party, since we have come to take part in our inter-Sudanese dialogue workshop here, we have gotten our opportunity as the youth to sit with political figures from different political parties and discuss with them our concerns, our issues that we need to also focus on to deal with things that concern members of the youth, especially because the youth are very optimistic that such a dialogue will enable them to reach a consensus. Of course, we've discussed some of the questions. We have been provided with a great opportunity by Egypt as members of the youth to attend, and we are very, very grateful. Thank you for the opportunity. First issue I want to discuss we needed a step like this to allow us to reach some sort of dialogue together. And we are grateful for Egypt to provide us with this outlet to meet, to discuss our concerns. All the different political factions in Sudan that have attended today is to show the willpower of the political factions to build bridges, to lessen the gap between the different parties and groups, to reach a consensus and an agreement to really start implementing them on the ground. Thank you very much.
أنا حقيقة يمكن قاعد أذكر زي موقفين ثلاثة. أول شخصيا أنا الحمد لله هذه هي المرة الرابعة يمكن أجي في مثل هذه الظروف.
This is my fourth time to attend such a dialogue. And this in different areas, the first of which was in Sudan itself.
بقيادتي لمصر واخترنا مصر وده كان دون أي علم من الحكومة المصرية وتفاوضنا في
We discussed amongst each other where we would like to meet to reach such consensus and agreements on a political level. And we all reached a conclusion that Egypt would be the best place to host us.
التجمع والحكومة بقيادة السيد عثمان المرغني. الآن الجاي الرابع حقيقة نحن
Now, in today's meeting, we have managed to start discussions and mediating between different Sudanese parties to manage this dialogue to reach some sort of agreement to decrease the tension on the ground. All our people wants is to live in peace, justice, to have social justice and democracy. This was the call by the Sudanese people during its revolution. Now we are calling for this. We are calling for this. Yet we are met with resistance by different parties and factions. But thank God, Egypt has given us an outlet, a place to meet, to take this dialogue openly and freely, and to participate, giving us all an opportunity of inclusiveness. Now, this is a very important meeting. Thank you very much.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شكرا للإخوة.
Thank you very much to all the members of the media. And again, I'd like to thank the Egyptian leadership and Egyptian people for their invitation and opportunity they have given us to talk and reach today's agreements. today's agreement has given us an opportunity to collaborate on the political field in Sudan. Today we managed to talk, and the different political factions have managed to come together and agree on many issues instead of a fragmented approach that we took before. Today in Cairo, now, these different political groupings that were separated in Sudan have now become unified in one group under one agreement in many, many issues. And this is exactly what we need. And I told the Egyptian officials, we have a saying in Sudan that says,
بتسبق كل الخيول الأخرى فمصر جاءت متأخرة ولكنها لأنها أصيلة.
Egypt is loyal, of course, and has allowed us to come this far and move us forward in our quest for unification.
لماذا؟ لأنه نحن ما مختلفين.
We have no disagreements.
إخواننا في المجلس المركزي لا مختلفين على مهام الفترة الانتقالية ولا مختلفين.
We now have agreements on many issues, and we agree on a transitional government. So we have reached many agreements in many issues. The constitutional document is where we faced some contention. This document, they helped in writing it, but we should also reach a consensus on this issue because they took part in the writing of this constitution. And this constitution is simply for the transitional period. Therefore, now we must reach the end game. The question is, what comes next? What we need now is to sit with the remaining groupings to come to an agreement about a civilian government and its formation. We need to sit together and start reaching an agreement to choose the transitional mechanisms that we will need to use to fill this hole and gap that we have seen over the last year and a half in the political sphere in the country. We need to reach the civilian government to reach our democratic phase and our elections, free and fair elections. And this phase is very important and should be a time of dialogue and consensus amongst the different groups and parties to reach our main goal, to reach the elections. Egypt has helped us to reach this final stage because the majority of the political factions have unified to come together as a single faction to move forward to the next stage.
بالفعل أبرز ما قدم في هذه الورشة هو ابتكار رؤية جديدة لمعالجة.
Indeed, one of the most important things we have reached in this dialogue workshop is consensus on many issues and agreements with regards to the development of the next period. I'd like to thank you very much, all of you, for attending, members of the media. Thank you for joining us and attending. We now move to the next phase of the signing of the agreement between the political groups and all the factions attending today's dialogue. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and glad to have you as our witnesses.
لأنه عدد كبير 10 إن شاء الله حركة ممثل حركة جيش تحرير السودان فليتفضل.
We'll have different representatives from different groups to please come forward. Just one member because the numbers are many. Please come forward.
نعم تفضلوا عشان يجوا. التحالف الديمقراطي للعدالة الاجتماعية، الحزب الوطني الاتحادي.
Calling upon the different political factions attending today to come forward, please.
دكتور الصافي، حزب اللواء الأبيض. هاي في فرصة للمجموعة القادمة. المجموعة الأخرى.
Call on the next group to please approach.
فرصة لمجموعة أخرى. يلا. طيب مؤتمر الرجال المعارض، الثوار المستقلين، الحزب القومي السوداني، حزب الوطن، حزب حركة تحرير السودان، تجمع مزارعي الجزيرة، حزب الأمة الموحد، تحالفات ونظام المجتمع المدني والكيانات المدنية، شخصيات قومية. شكرا. المجموعة الأخيرة.
Can the final group please approach?
عدد التنظيمات المشاركة. فقد اكتمل التوقيع على وثيقة التوافق السياسي، وبهذا نسدل الستار على فعاليات.
And with this, we wrap up the Inter-Sudanese Dialogue Workshop in Cairo. And we are wanting to thank the leadership of Egypt, especially all the coordinators and organizers that have allowed us to meet and prepared everything for us to take part in this Inter-Sudanese Dialogue Workshop. Many thanks, and thank you very much.